Mike Gill. This is the most important video we've done so far, and maybe that we're ever going to do. It's the video that if you are not outraged, then you're never going to be. Ask yourself. Let me tell you what I can give you here. Let me tell you why I'm doing this. For the people who don't understand, please go back through some of the other videos. But let's make this clear here. Let's start by saying, what can we get? Well, I can tell you can get numerous federal judges. Right, Judge Sobel? Judge McHugh? Numerous judges, you see. What about a couple of senators? An AG? A U.S. attorney? You interested yet? How about one chance of getting all these criminals out of our states, who run our states, these law firms that do, the insurers you do, pay for play, right? It's a job. They give them jobs to corrupt. That's why Walker went to the hospital, Manchester Memorial, and Kakavas went to Dartmouth. They pay them. You'd be surprised that the person we deposed here got a big fat state job. Right. See? Not only do you get paid off, you keep your job, you keep your mouth shut. See? But if we can turn around and clean these courts up for you to have justice, these politicians are manipulating to make themselves rich and have the arrogance to put you in jail. Right? And they've even got it so that you turn around and say, well, we know it's corrupt. What we can do about it? Well, at the end of this video, I'm going to make it very clear what you can do. And what I've done. And why this would work. Throughout Massachusetts, too. Right? You see what's happening in Pennsylvania? They only sent out 50 target letters. I only called it in 2010, and then again in 12, and then for the last year. And they're just getting around to it. They were going to have a cover-up. That's right. You get to watch my next video regarding racing. Right, the cover-up of the cover-up. So do you see the potential here? I'm only risking my life. For instance, if I wind up missing after this, or they say I committed suicide, don't believe them. They'll have more to do about this. And that's the size of what I'm dealing with right here. So is it worth it to you? Just to even pay attention? I hope that it is. And don't fight between each other. See what we have here. See what the potential for our children are. All right, crime fighters, you ready to prove our case? Now, I told you on the last video, Art of War and Connection, that we were going to have a deposition. I've never had one in New Hampshire before. And it was regarding Linda Nakamura, who she was suing me. Meaning the irony is that she was in charge of giving the depositions, which I didn't get any, which is why I fired her. And the first thing we do was have a deposition in her case. Big mistake. See, Attorney Barrington, you might remember him in the last video where I said that he was corrupt. Now, I haven't changed my mind. He didn't go anywhere. He had a job to do. Now, didn't you? How did that work out for you? Well, let's find out. So Barrington set up the depositions. We were going to have Lisa Tracy. You remember Lisa. She's the one that's and her children are being extorted by Bill Shaheen and Shaheen Gordon. And you know who Bill Shaheen's married to, right? Your Senator Gene Shaheen. Right. So, guess what? Lisa didn't show. In fact, we had Neil Pipe coming there too, an ex-attorney that was dealing with the IRS and the corruption there. And we're going to get into why he didn't show up. Right. We get a bonus thing with the IRS too. You can throw them on it because it turns out the IRS are working with these public officials. Right, Gene? In fact, didn't you get chastised by targeting your enemies with the IRS? There's a couple articles out there about it. That's exactly what you guys did to me. Now, isn't it? That's all right. I've got something special for Mr. Powell right here. Now, Barrington and putting this together, so the other two didn't show up. No, I'm not thinking Julian's going to show up. I'm not the kind of guy you want to get deposed with, especially if you're one guilty son of a bitch. He did. But just before that, did you know that Barrington didn't tell us the cancellations an hour and a half before Neil was supposed to show up? Oh yeah, he's not coming. Really? See, the whole thing was a setup. Except for Julian. Do you remember I said in the video, Art of War, that Linda Nakamura has to be threatening him? Because Linda knows the secrets. How do you think someone like Linda, who I'm saying is threatening all these agencies, these law firms, because that's who gave her the job. Now how can someone stand up to that and actually extort them? They must have taught her how to do that. But she is. And she knows Julian's corrupt because Julian's the one with Miller. And we'll go over the deposition. So why did Julian go there? Because she extorted him. That's why. Barrington too, by the way. Because the bad guys had to set that up. So Barrington in return, an hour and a half, 2 hours before the deposition, he sends me over 35 questions. Or what I like to call setup questions. Right. They had Julian studying. Except for you'll see that I had an email that I says, I will have you ask no questions. Throughout his questions. Had a few of my own though, which he wasn't so happy. In fact, he gave me a text message back and said that, you can't tell me I can't say anything. I wrote those questions. You did. And you gave them to me 2 hours before. His problem was we were going to discuss it. When was that going to be? Right? In fact, afterwards, I turned around to him that he was so upset. I go, are you referring to the 35 questions 2 hours before? Yeah. And then he turns around and says, I go, you do remember we were in the room when the discussion was murdering my children. And Julian Long had just quit. Right? And that you noticed that she was lying multiple times about Miller and the forgery. Right? Yeah. Oh, by the way, you were supposed to report that, you know. Now, do you still have questions that Barrington doesn't know that I think he's corrupt? What if I've got an email from Linda going to him? See, Linda wasn't too happy on how that happened. Especially when Julian exposed himself. He wrote Barrington an email. She did. And you know what she told Barrington? Listen, I'm only going up for a deposition if Mike Gill pays my bills to come up there. Now, if you were being sued, would you necessarily pay that person's bill to come up here and sue you? Right. You wouldn't. I'm going to. That's right. See, that's the play. They want it ended there. No, I'll pay to get your ass up here. Right. Now, she also said one other thing in that email that was very curious. You do know that he thinks you're a crook and he puts you on the videos. Right? Barrington's still our attorney now. They told him to do it, and he was blackmailed. He set up the questions, and now you're going to find out why. Let's go briefly over this deposition. The depositions, it just might change our lives. Might change the corruption in these states. Might be that domino that gets us everything that I think we can get. Julian Long was a paralegal that worked for me. Weeks, 6 weeks. In fact, you'll see through the deposition, Julian was graduated from Williams and Mary's with honor. Those of you who don't know this, that's a very good law school. And Julian's a very smart man. Not as smart as me. So when I asked Julian who hired, who did he interview with, who did he talk to? Didn't have much memory. I go, you sure? I only had one PR person, human resources person. No, I don't remember. Remember the receptionist, another receptionist, but not this one. Because that person who gave him to me, that he spoke to, was Lisa Tracy. Remember, that's the Lisa didn't show up, the one who was being leveraged by Shaheen. Right, didn't show up. We'd think she would, right? But here's Julian and a text from Lisa to me that said, Julian Long's in at 12, classed out. He's big on civil rights. See, she was setting me up from someone that I would have hired because I wanted to start a mediation for divorced people and charge them nothing. That was his job. And if you question that, he answers yes to that exact question in the deposition. See? So, Julian lied about that. Now, we get him in the deposition. He starts, we talk about the Friedman case. He was supposed to put the Friedman case together. And he goes, I said, did you notice in the Friedman case that John Friedman had said that New Hampshire was the worst corruption he's seen in 30 years? And I remind you, viewers, that Friedman was in charge of the banking department issue. He could give you the Ponzi scheme, FRM, which is the same reason that they haven't made any decision, and why U.S. Attorney Kakavas resigned, because Friedman could give you that. And that's why we haven't heard in almost a year from the judge with the Friedman case. She don't want to go to jail either. So when they questioned about the 30 years, to be honest, I worked on a deposition, I don't remember. Really? 30 years of corruption you don't remember? And I just said you remembered a mindless statement, but you didn't remember the 30 years of corruption. And here's the other question. Do you remember him talking about going to the FBI? I remember some state official. I said, do you remember he spoke directly that he was speaking to Carmen Ortiz, the U.S. Attorney in Massachusetts? See, we got names here. Oh, I did remember something like that. Wow, you did. You didn't mention that. These are kind of important issues, wouldn't you say? Let's go on. Now we got to the fee agreement. The fee agreement, and we're going to post a small slice of the video. You be the jury. For those who haven't seen that, it is the trial with Wiggins and Norrie, where they presented me this fee agreement, and I noticed it wasn't my name. It wasn't even close to my name. You know why it wasn't close to my name? It's the fee agreement. It's the first thing you sign. Guess what? It was an out for them. So I could never see it. And the reason why they screwed up my name, and again, you're going to get to see that, is they never saw my name before, not my signature. See? That's how it was done. Now we got a big problem now, don't we? Now, regarding that fee agreement, did you help prepare the Wiggins case? Turns out, yes, he did. Why didn't he know we didn't have a fee agreement then? He didn't. And then we turn around and said, do you remember that I claimed the fee agreement was a forgery? Yes, I do. You do? I do. So, did you not find the original document days after the trial? Yes, I did. Really? Now, what was he doing? Now, let's remember where he found it. 17 boxes from 10 and 10, which was the law firm after Wiggins. So they would have had no business a fee agreement because that's the contract to pay, you know, the one they used in the court. Now, you tell me why they would give the original to 10 and 10. I'll tell you, it couldn't happen. These bastards want to get paid. That's the contract. Can we believe that? And they're a pack of cheating lawyers? Yes. Okay. Now that we've established that. So, what Julian did was seen that. Now, we saw that I told you in the video. So, Julian went through 17 boxes, 17,000 documents, and found the original. Eureka! They're off the hook. What? Now, this conversation, he found it was on April 16th. Remember that. April 16th, and we have it in the document, and I'll close that. That states that he went through all those boxes and only found one original, and on that day. Now, you know why we did that? Did you find that unusual? Because I knew what he was doing then. That's why I had him look for the second original himself. He couldn't find it. Now, so that's a very important one to find. Now, what I said to him then was, in this fee agreement that was found on the 16th, did you speak to Miss Miller prior to that? No. Now you're going to hear no about 3-4 times. No, I never spoke to Miss Miller back then. Well, what if we tell you that you communicated with Miller? Never. About Wiggins, and contacted before that. Really? Well, then I showed him. And I can show you, and we'll attach it. An email from Julian and Miss Miller on the 16th. Now, I remind you, Miller didn't get hired till the 21st. On the 16th. And I had to show it to him. I said, here's a communication. The very day you found that forgery with Miller. Wow. Right. Now, do you know what that document from Miller to Long said? Miller was asking Long to forge her a name. Right. On the same day he finds a forgery. Find that hard to believe? We have it on emails. On the 16th. Now, you remember, he never claimed to have spoke or communicated with her till then. Wow. And then I said, you remember what I was having you do. It was a motion to the court in Morris Mahoney that was saying why we didn't have any attorney. Remember, the last one, Little, he only threatened to murder my children. So Miller was being put in. So Miller was working with Julian on the entrance. Now remember, before we hired her, corrupting it so she could get in and out. I'll enclose them. In fact, we had him do it again, and he did the same thing. But the important thing that I think you want to pay attention to, you ready? The document to put her in the case was done on April 10th, and we have it by Julian. Remember, he never spoke to her or communicated her at the 16th when they find the forgery. Now I have a document on April 10th and on April 15th to get Miller in to hide her and Morris Mahoney. Because when we left, we get kicked out because of that. See? The whole thing was a setup. Well, Julian, regarding the signature and the forgery, he found it. Now I put my signature that you've seen on the video, that's on a stamp, that's on the checks, on all mortgage specialists' legal documentation. So you see my legal name. Now you're going to see the person who signed my name. No, a blind person would know they're not even close.
Miguel, I'm going to give you a copy of Exhibits 1, 2, and 3 to refer to. I ask you first to refer to Exhibit number 1, sir. Could you please confirm for the jury that as your signature on page 3 of Exhibit 1?
It's not. We can move on.
It's not your signature.
100% it's not.
Whose is it?
You got me. I only have about 1,000 signatures over there. Match this one up with one of them.
So someone signed this document and forged your name to it in August of 2007?
I've never seen this document. And I guarantee you, you can't pull a signature that I've done, any one out of 1,000 that looks even close to that.
Could you look at page number 1 or Exhibit 1, please, sir?
Page 1. Yep.
This is a letter dated July 18, 2007 from Attorney Ross, addressed to you as personal and confidential at 69 Conway Grove Road, Gary. Is that what it says?
Does say that.
Is that your address? Was that your address in 2007?
It's still my address.
Did you receive this letter?
No. Not that I recall. And listen, you see that signature? You've got my signature on 1,000. Tell me if it's close. Yeah,
We
it's
have a
good.
sidebar
that's in the document before, he said, never received it. Yeah, I did, yeah.
I was going backwards.
Would you like a copy of my driver's license, Mr. Hilliard, so you can match up the signature to find out we're not even in the right ballpark?
So, Mr. Gill, it is your testimony under oath that you did not receive the July 18, 2007 letter that we...
What I'm saying is, what you just showed me here, I've never signed. And the signature you're showing here, which could be clear to all the jurors, if you'd like to do multiple copies of my signature, to see if this is my signature.
Did you receive the letter?
I have no memory of this letter, and I'm telling you, that is a forgery. In fact, let me take a look. Just checking the signatures of the people who did sign it, because it looks like they used the same pen. And if you would have mailed it to me, then I wouldn't have it signed yet, would I? Would you like a copy of my driver's license to verify the signature?
I just want to confirm that you're denying under oath before this jury.
Under oath, I'm telling you, this is a forgery, flat out.
And you also deny receiving the letter.
Right, that I have any recall of receiving this. This would have been 7 years ago. But I'm telling you this, I did not sign this. So this fee agreement, so forth, is a forgery. Look at the, you know what, my business is checking forgeries. I run a mortgage company. And you know something? Take a look at the pen who wrote it and the pen there.
It's not your signature.
I think I made that clear, haven't
It
I?
was not signed on your behalf by...
Excuse me?
It was not signed on your behalf by...
Absolutely not. Why would I? Doesn't it say they witnessed it?
The letter says, at the bottom, read, approved, and accepted. And there's a line for signature by Michael J. Gill, and the date.
Pretty clear to me, and that's not my signature.
Except for Julian. Turns around and says, they're similar. Really? So you see, he has to say that. Because we're coming back to him now. Again, did you speak to Miller before? Because now I showed you the documentation. It appears so. It appears so. Right. And the 10th and the 15th, it does. Do you understand he lied about that 3-4 times before? Everything we have Miller incriminated this case, works for the insurer, and did get it thrown out with Julian's help. See? If you remember earlier, I was questioning Julian on the videos. Oh, I saw one, I saw a little. Did you see Miller as a spy in there? No. Now, he said no about 3 times. But at the end here, he was referring to Miller as a spy. I was. And he goes, I go, where'd you see it? He goes, the video. You know, the one he said he didn't see. You know, the ones that threaten to murder my children and say that she's a spy. Remember, it's Ted Little that she knows is protecting. He's the texter that we're going to close that says New Hampshire's corrupt and gave this information. You see? Now there's the leverage of that. They're all connected. That's why Ted knew about Miller. So we referred to the videos, and where he didn't say he knew Miller or mentioned it, and now that he does, and he's correcting me. I explained to her, you looked at the videos. You seen the text messages, right? Did you read them? Yes. Remember she said she didn't hear anything about Andy being a spy? It called her out as a spy in the text message. See what she's doing? She's covering for Miller. Because Miller can get you the insurers and these federal judges. That's who she was working with. She also kicked out the Lawrence case. And then I go through, so you see the text message, you see it threaten my children? Yeah. You consider that serious? No. Really? If they threaten to kill your children, would that be serious? Well, I guess so. Now I want you to remember this. The play for pay. Out of all these questions, you know, with extortion and all these, She only refused to answer one. Later, she was forced to. You know what that was? Where do you work now? Now, why do you think she doesn't want you to know that? Because that's the payoff. She got a state job in Rochester. Right. See, don't miss what Long gives us. She gives us Miller. She gives us Ross. Ross is the leading divorce lawyer in the state. He runs all of the divorce. He is the godfather of that. See? He's too important to go down. Remember the video? I told you who he was. Why do you think I went there? And we got him, and they still did this. Linda's blackmailing Julian. Why do you think he's not communicating with anybody, so he says, but Linda? It only said like 15 times. And then when I turned around and said, well, consider yourself getting a hold notice, and I'm going to examine all the communications. Oh, well, maybe there was more like 50. 50. Who do you call 50 times? Right. And these aren't likable characters. Linda was blackmailing him. That's why he was here. And he's trying to save his job. Now let's not forget I caught Miller. Remember the spy? Now you remember I'm going to enclose a brief snippet of a deposition I had with attorney Curley, who represents Morris Mahoney. He kept pounding me in that deposition. In fact, he wanted to close the deposition down for me to have yes and no answers, because it wasn't going well for him. But in that deposition, he kept pounding me, and I don't know why. Miller. Did I ever talk to Miller? Did Miller ever communicate with me? Over and over again. You'll see it. And the same thing with Ted Little. Now, of all the things that we're talking about, Morris Mahoney, why was he so focused and enraged about those pieces? Because they know who he is. Miller works for Curley. Remember when Miller quit? It was that blown up deposition. Cohen. Oh, and you'll like the Cohen case because it got dismissed. And you know who wrote the complaint for us? Barrington. And the complaint was screwed up. Nice job. See? It's all part of the same. Now, when I confronted Miller, I gave her emails, if you remember, that simply says, I want a full accounting of all the discussions with the attorneys and the insurers. I would like an update with whom you spoke with. Start with today, so that I would have a better understanding when we're speaking tomorrow exactly where you are. Well, she was going to have the Cohen deposition, Barry Dunn, blow up because they couldn't look into the taxes. So when I confronted her that day, you know what she said to me? And here's the email. The last email I gave her. For example, the last time you spoke with Robert Curley, and about what? Curley. You know, the same guy you're going to see the snippet that keeps saying, what did she say? Did she incriminate me? Well, it said, for example, Curley. You know what she said to me? And enclosed, you'll see the affidavit in front of two people who witnessed it. If I tell you, it would incriminate me. Incriminate by means a crime, by the way. Right. So what could she be talking criminally to Curley? Which is why Curley's losing his shit on the video. And why the deposition couldn't. Because he is controlling it. And the insurers. Who do you think he represents? You see, Curley knew and wanted to disconnect himself. He knew the crime. And he knew Little threatened to murder my children because he was so frightened. And then the thing with Miller. He knew Miller could lead to him. Right? Which is why, after 16 failed attempts, we can't find Miller. We can find her, you just can't serve her. You know why? And we've heard nothing from the judge, other than saying, if you can't find her, I guess we got to dismiss. Really? You see who Miller is now? And his problem with Little. I told him, don't worry, we're going to depose Little, and we'll get all those answers. So the guy who threatened to murder my children, who's saying the state of New Hampshire is corrupt, and the courts are corrupt, and he's worried about his kids, we're going to get a deposition, except for they just dismissed it yesterday. Yesterday. You remember? They can't have us speak to him. It was right after we did these deposition, Julian's deposition, right? That's what it goes. So we'll enclose this too. Judge Saylor, I guess it's okay to commit fraud on the court, threaten to murder my children, and act corruptly. What did he say? He had files and so forth, and you dismissed it. You see? They know, and Curley knows too. The first clip you're going to see is the beginning of my deposition. We had just gotten sworn in. The deposition that I had given the day before had a stenographer and a court reporter. After the deposition, I spoke to both of them. They both declared that they worked for the Racing Commission. Why were they at my deposition? It's because they were afraid what I was going to find out, and the fact that Ted Little is connected with racing. Watch the clip.
We are now recording and on the record. My name is Vanessa Howland. I'm a legal video specialist for Catuno Court Reporting. Our business address is 255 State Street, Boston, Massachusetts, 02109. Today is October 29th, 2014, and the time is 9:56 a.m. This is the deposition of Michael J. Gill. In the matter of Michael J. Gill and the Mortgage Specialists, Incorporated, versus Morrison Mahoney, LLP, Nicholas P. Alexander, and Eric E. Renner, in U.S. District Court, District of Massachusetts, Civil Action Number 1:CV-CV-11241-RWZ. This deposition is being taken at 35 Braintree Hill Office Park, Braintree, Massachusetts. The court reporter is Ariane Baker of Catuno Court Reporting. Counsel, will you please state your appearances, and the court reporter will administer the oath.
Robert Curley for the defendant, Morrison Mahoney, LLP.
Good morning. My name is Steve Duggan. I represent the defendant, Eric Renner.
My name is Michael Kerrigan, representing defendant Nicholas Alexander.
My name is Michael Gill, representing myself as the plaintiff.
Want to swear in, Mr. Gill? Thank you.
Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And we will be operating under the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure and the local rules of the United States District Court for Massachusetts concerning the conduct of depositions. Good morning, Mr. Gill. Could you state your name for the record, please?
Michael Gill. I'd like to make one disclosure before we start, is that I was made aware just after the deposition yesterday that the videographer and the stenographer did work for the the Racing Commission. Is this tape, or anything to do with this tape, involving the Racing Commission, or the Commission will see it?
I will tell you at the outset, I had no thought about the Racing Commission or anything to do with the Racing Commission. Have had no contact with the Racing Commission and have no understanding that anyone from our office is going to contact the Racing Commission in any way.
But that was a disclosure that was made, so I just believe that we should, well,
I don't know what disclosure you're referring to, Mr. Gill.
well, after the meeting, the stenographer and the videographer, and talking about horse racing, we were just casually talking, they made a disclosure to me, but she did, didn't she?
She said she could not talk about the case.
That she has done work for the Racing Commission, and she inferred that you also did. This next clip, you're going to see Attorney Curley questioning me about Amy Miller and Ted Little. They're not on the case. They didn't work for Morris Mahoney. They represented them. Why are you asking me questions? Because they worked for him. You'll see he's trying to get me to say that they didn't. You'll see the text messages. This was his concern, that the criminality would lead back to him. But now, if you're asking me, do I believe you have knowledge of these things? Yes, I do.
Not what I asked you, sir.
Well, that's what I'm telling you, sir.
Are you refusing to answer my question?
Your question is Mr. Little said your name directly? I don't recall.
Are you aware of any contact between myself and Mr. Little?
I don't recall.
Are you aware of any contact between Mr. Little and any other lawyer in this case?
I believe Mr. Little is the is the writer of those text messages saying that the case is being controlled. And when he brings out the fact that I'm filing a lawsuit on Wednesday, and he's right to the date. And when Miss Miller, who he suggests that is a spy, in a written request for her speaking to you, the defendants of Morris Mahoney, the lawyers, and Peabody Arnold, that Miss Miller, in fact, was a spy. Now, Miss Miller, with two witnesses, you can smile all you want, but it's also the evidence that goes to the FBI, that an affidavit that she stated that if I told you what I spoke to with defending counsels, it would incriminate me.
Are you aware of any...
Now, that's a real fact.
That's a dream, Mr. Gill.
No.
Are you aware...
Are you suggesting that I don't have that?
Let me ask a question,
Are you suggesting...
Sir, I'm going to ask a question. We're going to proceed, or we're going to go to court.
We can do whatever you want.
Listen. Sir, this is my question.
No, I'm
This is
giving you...
No, you're not giving me anything, sir.
Then I object. I object. Then you're not allowing me to answer the question.
You haven't answered the question
You're not
today,
allowing
sir.
me to answer the question.
Mr. Gill, are you aware of any contact whatsoever between Amy Miller and myself?
I'm aware that she said in an in front of two witnesses that she said that the lawyers that defending Morris Mahoney and Peabody and Arnold, if she was to say what she has talked to you about, it would incriminate her. So I am standing on that exact statement.
And that's the sole basis for your...
I'm not saying sole. That's what you're getting.
All right. Are you aware of anything other than that, of any supposed contact between Ms. Miller and myself?
That's the reference she gave directly.
Okay.
Are you a defendant of Morris Mahoney?
That's the sole basis for your statement.
Are you a defendant of Morris
Sir,
Mahoney?
I'm not here to answer your questions.
Well,
this is your deposition. You're here to answer the questions.
Good. I just gave you my answer. So, yes, I believe you're involved. Yes, I believe that you are a defense attorney for Morris Mahoney. What she implied was the conversation she's had with the defense attorney of these cases would incriminate her. So, would it incriminate you? Now, we do have that in an affidavit, and we do have the emails. So we have submitted those to court and to the FBI, so maybe it's something you should remember what your answer is going to be. The reason why I ended this deposition is because Curley was trying to force me only to answer yes and no. He didn't want the truth. He didn't want an explanation because it could put him and his other attorneys in prison, and he knew it.
Marked as Exhibit 1, document number 112 in this lawsuit. It's defendant Morris and Mahoney LLP's motion for protective order, which was allowed by the court. And in the relief requested, paragraph 4 asks that Gill be ordered to provide responsive answers to questions asked at his deposition. 5, that Gill be ordered not to make any speeches at his deposition. 6, that Gill be ordered to conduct himself at his or at any deposition in a manner appropriate for a deposition, and that he refrain from outbursts or conduct that will disrupt the deposition. In my view, that order has been repeatedly violated throughout the course of the morning. And
So I guess that ends the deposition.
And we reserve our right to seek appropriate relief.
As-
No, it doesn't end the deposition.
Yes, it does for me. Because I believe let's put this statement. I have answered all the questions. I've been repeatedly interrupted. I believe Mr. Curley is trying to prevent me from giving the answer that he wants. And if this is going to put this as a motion to violate or kick out this deposition or the case, then I say we wait for an order from the court and deposition over.
The order allowing this motion has already been entered, Mr. Gill.
Well,
And I'm
you're saying
simply-
I violated this motion. So if we stick to
I'm
that, we're all
saying-
set.
I'm saying you violated the order, and I'm prepared to proceed this afternoon. I was hoping that you would provide responsive answers and stop making speeches.
No, I'm not, and I say you file your motion, and then we'll continue.
So you're leaving.
I'm saying that you're setting this up so that I'm not suggesting that I'm not answering it when I am. I think what we do is we take the deposition information. I'd still like a copy as soon as we're done, please, and that we present it as evidence to the court that it's not the case.
Well, I disagree with your leaving. I think we ought to proceed, and
No, but that was your recommendation.
Your leaving will provide further grounds for dismissal of this case.
My leaving will provide further grounds between the deposition of Renner and this will give me a federal criminal indictment, which is really what I want anyhow. So we can go forwards, and we can turn around and call it a day right here and write your motion to the judge, because we do know you're really interested in the criminality and the involvement of yourself and the people you represent. You may smile there, but I promise you, you won't be. And so if this is the order and the conditions that you're asking me to step forward on how I answer my questions, I will not answer my questions the way Mr. Curley would like to. I would remind him on how many times Mr. Duggan interrupted me by saying Mr. Renner wasn't answering questions. And let's not forget, Mr. Renner never at any one point said he wrote the complaint, but he was a typist. I am giving you a direct answer each and every time. That is not has been given to me. So until Judge Sobel rules on this matter, I'll consider the deposition final.
Don't forget, the corrupt use the tool of the IRS to punish victims. Jean Shaheen does it herself. It's been challenged on it. Now, let's follow an email trail. You remember through a past video that we were saying that a tax advocate form was found in Lisa Tracy's office about a year after she left. Right, she never told anyone. It was an email from the tax advocate office that was given to Schwartz, our accountant, that was initiated by Jason Cole and Alex Walker, Divine Millimat. And that is June of 11. No one told me. It was all resolved. Right. In fact, you'll see an email that I'll enclose that Walker is leveraging me to give him a release regarding the DRA, IRS, banking department release, all the criminality. Doesn't even tell me this issue is resolved. Instead, he decides to leverage me with it. They never tell me this, and Lisa Tracy never tells me this, because I told him to stick it. So let's go 2 years of dealing with these people and nothing, and I never knew this existed. Remember, Janet Rumsford is the taxpayer advocate. Let's go on. So 2 years go by. We're getting 11 of 13. And I get an email. Does Mike want to work on the tax issues? CCR and Schwartz are the only ones who prepared 9 tax returns. Is offering them a release a good idea? What? Who was giving them a release? I told them to stick it. They were working on it with Driscoll. See this guy Driscoll? He worked for 4 days. You know what? When he was working on a case of Mortimer Honey, we got an email. You know what it was addressed to? Liberty Mutual. The son of a bitch worked for the insurer. Check it out. Now, let's keep going. So Driscoll's working with Pike to get this accountant a release. Now let's keep going. Now, Pike, he calls Tim Powell of the IRS, who's the agent for the IRS, who does clobber these guys and works for the corrupt. That's why out of all these times, and Tifka, you've already got this package. Now you're seeing Tim Powell back again, right? From all these people, we got a letter just recently, right after the deposition, that might throw Powell into jail, saying he's got it again. Right here, we'll enclose it. You can't make this up. Now let's keep going on. So he's talking to Powell. And Neil goes, and Lisa Tracy, Lisa Tracy goes to Neil. Mike would like you to call a taxpayer advocate. Now this email is 11/8 of 13. Do you remember she had Janet Rumsford's email saying it was just a paperwork mistake, and we get it all cleared up in April of 11. So you understand by her asking this question that I didn't know? Did you notice how she said Mike would like to know? Right. They already knew. And then they also said he would like to forward the file number to the Criminal Investigation Department in Boston. It gets better. He goes, Pike, to Lisa, I left a message with the taxpayer advocate in Portsmouth and with Tom Morley, the IRS Criminal Division. I'll try him again this afternoon. Mike said thank you. Yeah. So, then they turn around, and then they're speaking on 12/17, believe it or not, to Janet Rumsford. You know, the person I never know we talked to way back on June 11th. But here they are talking to her. Now, they asked Rumsford, have you seen that document? They're asking Miss Rumsford if she can help. You know what she says? Oh, I looked at this before. Maybe it's in the basement. I'll have to request the file. The file in the basement? Really? I asked about a meeting and she and Tom Morley were Titka and they gave a case number provided. Miss Rumford reached out to Special Agent Morley to see if we could have a meeting arranged. So the taxpayer advocate is trying to make an appointment with the criminal division, Tom Morley, to sit down with me. Except for I never knew Rumford was working on this 2 years before. And now she's trying to say she can't find the records. It's somewhere in the basement. I don't know. Has the IRS forgot or lost anything of yours? Like when it comes to owing the money? You really believe that? She's stonewalling it. It gets better. Please, could you try to get in touch with Janet Rumford, the taxpayer advocate office in Portsmouth? Guess who Shaheen has an office in? Right. She has sent us information, was trying to set up a meeting for Mike and herself with Morley. She indicated she was unable to find Mike's records. So they can't find any records of the taxpayer advocate statement that was her own. Now, regarding Mr. Leahy, is the Treasury Inspector General declined to meet with her and Mike, citing a conflict of interest. Listen, I don't know. Who do you got conflicts with? Right. Tim Powell? Or a cover-up? Exactly. I called Rumford to exactly who Mr. Leahy was. She then spoke back and said, I'm not even sure if I have his name right. Can you say cover-up? How about we take down the IRS and say, hey, listen, you can't keep threatening us with this. You can't attack us and punishing us with this. See, that's what Shaheen does. That's how they enforce this. Do you really believe the IRS lost their paperwork from 1.5 years ago? 2 years? No. And the last thing with Pike is he was investigating this, and he's an attorney. And when I asked him to file Cohen, which he would have known corrupt, he states that if it's something that he's not believing in or he can't see, he won't file. And he quit the next day. See, he knew Cohen was corrupt. But if that is the case, right, and that he only believes what he put in writing here on the contract, then why did he send out these letters? Let me go through them for you. Mark Cohen, the same guy he said he wouldn't put his name on it, he's asking him a release. It will release him from all the crimes. You know, so that we can present this in a federal investigation. He signed it. Not only did he sign it for Cohen, he signed it to Lorraine Colby of the IRS. Now, what did he see? You know his good buddy, Powell, that he's talking to every day? He sent him a release too. And again signed it. So what did he see? That we were reaching out and asking for Powell for a release so we could turn state's evidence. You must have saw something pretty harsh, wouldn't you say? And let's not forget Kate Caceres of the DRA. Remember I told you Walker was leveraging? What did he see here? See? These are all releases. So we saw that, didn't we? Now, I just gave you pieces. Now I know that this might confuse some people, but please don't be confused of what we're going to get. This takes them down. It takes the federal judges down, U.S. attorneys. It goes right through the courts, right through the states, and I am telling you they're petrified. Petrified. Now what I'm going to do is, you asked, what can I do? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. It's going to take 5 minutes of your time. You ready? I'm going to show you a form. And it's only one-sided. And it goes right to the Justice Department. We're going to give you our case number. And I want you to do this. I want you to download that form and invest in one stamp for the future of your children. One stamp that simply says, "We've watched Mike Gill on stateofcorruption.org. We have been informed that this evidence that he has presented, that he has given to you directly." Refer to the case number. And simply say, "There is enough here, we would like you to look at it." Just take a peek. We don't need any more than a peek. Trust me. Now, when you ask what you can do, say that you did that. Say that you made a difference right here, right now, and just simply say you want it looked at. And we've got a new tomorrow. Your children get a new future. When you're dealing with situations in court and insurers, you say the insurance is too high, it's a corruption. So please, look through this. I'll put the attachments. And know this. If this wasn't true, could I be saying it? You remember now, no one else is suing me. The only one was Linda, who wants me to pay for her to come up here because they want the case dismissed because I caught them. You caught them. We caught them. Now I'm asking you just to do this. And let's see if we can't change everything. In Massachusetts, New Hampshire, I am telling you, Pennsylvania, did I not call all those arrests? And the RICO charges there were beyond anybody's imagination. Not mine. In fact, I had every piece in place in 2010. And guess what? I've got this in place too. Any one of them calling me a liar, any one of them suing me. So this is your time. This is your opportunity to make a difference. Because if you don't fill out one form in 2 minutes of your time, you have lost the right to say it is corrupt. You have lost the right to expect nothing but injustice. Gone. And unfortunately, so did your children. Thank you.